Raise your hand if you've ever experienced something different to what somebody assured you would happen. And now keep it raised if you yourself have ever made a promise that you couldn't keep. There are always external factors getting in the way of achieving our goals, and if there's a chance that you can't meet the expectations others have for you, then it might be better to not set such expectations in the first place. We've all let people down before, and we've all been let down by people as well, which makes it very hard to trust their words when they don't sync up with their actions. Anyone can say anything to make us feel secure, but if it doesn't amount to anything, then what we're left with are just a bunch of empty platitudes.
Everyone just does what they want to do. They come back whenever they feel like it, and then they take off again.
Actions, however, are tangible. For better or worse, they can be looked at, absorbed, and judged, which is why they can speak louder than words, an idea that continues to be beaten into our heads throughout the years as we stubbornly refuse to learn it.
Let's see you grit those teeth!
In the world of superheroes, actions are everything. In fact, that's part of the reason why I loved the genre so much growing up, because it was easier to cope with the injustices of the world if I could sit there and watch someone fighting the good fight, even if they were just imaginary. I'm not saying these types of stories still don't have a place, but sometimes the more powerful someone is, the more they run the risk of being seen as a solution to all the world's problems. And with each passing season, My Hero Academia seems to grow progressively more concerned with how that sense of security can also become problematic in the long run.
I am here!
If Season 1 was all about fleshing out the concept of a society full of superheroes, and Season 2 focused on introducing us to the specific heroes and villains within it, then Season 3 seems to be fixated on showing us how exactly those elements try to coexist. Professional heroes are constantly ranked and judged based on the number of bad guys they put away, or how much of a positive presence they have in the community, and for a while, All Might sat at the top of that totem pole.
I'm supposed to be the guy who's always smiling, right? I'm the symbol of peace. People everywhere have to think that I'm never afraid.
And like Superman, made the general public feel safe by making it seem like he'd always be there to help them. On the surface, it's a noble profession generally well received in the public eye, but the society that it perpetuates is hardly a perfect one, because when so much is expected of you, when so much of the community relies on your ability to look out for them, what can follow is this daunting sense that failure is not an option.
But honestly, I smile to hide the fear inside. It's just a brave face I put on when the pressure is high. This job isn't easy. Pro heroes are always having to risk their lives. Some villains just can't be beaten without powers. So can you be a hero? Not without a quirk.
I see.
In a lot of ways, this show is almost like a commentary on our modern society. Even if the world wasn't riddled with people that could use superpowers, we aren't so easily won over when things don't always go according to plan. It can be hard to believe in the common decency of our fellow man, especially after constantly being presented with evidence of the contrary. Almost like the twisted world Shigaraki sees, one filled with false smiles and empty promises.
But just look at these sheep. Any one of them could use their quirks and start a massacre whenever they wanted. And yet they're all here, smiling. They think laws and rules will protect them because they assume everyone has their same morals.
I remember Gigic mentioning that he initially wasn't sure why the villains of My Hero Academia openly referred to themselves as such. But maybe that's because these labels issued out by the general public have long lost their meaning. In a world that's insistent on leaving things up to those who fail to keep their promises and calling them heroes, being a villain by contrast looks much more appealing. Even when they commit horrible acts, it's their convictions and desire to make things better that defines them, not the empty words that a flawed society attaches to them.
A hero in this current system only cares about money and glory. And since society buys into those idiotic rules, anyone deemed a loser is shoved aside.
It doesn't matter what All Might says to the people or what others say about him, because the failure to hold up to that ideal and meet that unreal expectation, highlighted by people like Stain, are beginning to speak way louder. They were promised protection, guidance, and purity, but either never found it or were led to believe something different based on their expectations. They are the answer to the question, what happens when a hero doesn't arrive?
He'll be fine. Eventually the heroes will help. I'm sure that's what everyone thought as they looked away and ignored you. The world shouldn't be so unforgiving. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't worry, I am here for you.
Based on his Darth Vader-esque design and namesake alone, we as an audience can clearly identify All for One as a bad guy. But to someone like Shigaraki, this man is the true hero because he was there to rescue and support him when seemingly no one else was. Imagine living in a world full of heroes that are always saving other people. Yet for some reason, you were left all alone, almost like you weren't good enough to be saved by them. That smile that All Might gives to reassure people as the symbol of peace suddenly takes on a whole new meaning when skewed from a different perspective. What once inspired hope, safety, and inspiration now might instill disdain and resentment, almost like he's constantly being mocked by the very figures that created the society in the first place.
It's him. The problem is All Might. He's why these morons are able to smile thoughtlessly, as if there's no one in the whole world he can't save.
Shigaraki is very much a child lashing out against a world that he feels has wronged him, trying to show that their security is nothing more than an empty lie. And this is the embodiment of what All Might fears, someone growing up desperately needing a hero, but never got one.
How are you gonna save him, huh? Don't make promises you can't keep! Live up to your words or they don't mean anything! You're no hero, you're just a fraud! And you'll die that way!
When you're a kid, you can't always discern a truth from a lie. So you absorb almost everything that you're told, fully believing that unrealistic expectation we should expect from those we call heroes.
Oh, help me! I'm here!
Then, as we get older and are confronted with the harsh realities of life, those actions begin to stick with you more than any other words that you hear or read about.
The last thing I want is to hang with some wannabe heroes!
Koda is a young child who hates heroes because to him, being one got his parents killed. And even though everyone tried to tell him that their sacrifice was a noble one because it saved a lot of people, none of this changes the fact that their actions left him all alone. It's very possible that young Koda would have walked the same path as Shigaraki, and in a lot of ways, I wouldn't blame him.
How do you even begin to explain to a child that his parents died honorable deaths? They were his entire world, everything. But to him, his parents had left him behind.
That's the problem with these types of stories. While it might lull people into feeling safe in the moment, eventually it always sets itself up for failure. But I don't think that's what My Hero Academia is trying to be about. When we first met Deku, he was also disillusioned to the world around him, assured by adults and a more jaded All Might that he couldn't be a hero because he didn't have any powers. But rather than internalize that disappointment and let it lead him down the wrong path like Shigaraki was, he still chose to take action when it was necessary. He didn't look at All Might, smile, and think, I'll always be okay because he's around. Even with all the power in the world, it's impossible to coddle and be there for everyone. So maybe we're supposed to read that declaration much more literally, as if he's saying, I'm here in the moment to help any way that I can. And if you put your mind to it, you can do the same for someone else.
There are plenty of things I'd like to say, but they'll have to wait. All Might was right, though. Meddling when you don't need to is the essence of being a hero!
Even if it looks like we might fail, taking that step towards helping others is sometimes a lot harder to do than we give it credit for, especially when the odds are stacked against us. But it's also during those moments where something more important and uplifting begins to shine, and that something is the desire to do our part. Shigaraki might be All Might's greatest fear, but he couldn't have asked for a better successor than Deku, someone who embodies exactly what that smile of his is supposed to represent.
You are the fledgling symbol of peace. The next All Might. Izuku Midoriya. Now for a lesson. You may have heard these words before, but perhaps it's time someone taught you what it means to go beyond Plus Ultra!
So what does any of this have to do with us? Well, to be honest, I can understand not giving into the hype and seeing My Hero Academia as just another empty platitude that spends more time talking rather than doing like those that came before it. The truth of the matter is, we won't always be there for people that need us, so we shouldn't make promises that we always will. But I don't think we should use that reality as an excuse to give up on the world around us, no matter how tempting it is. Because if we look at the inverse, if enough people actually take action when the opportunity presents itself, and focus on being there for others that need us, then there's a chance that we'll have a lot less lost children in this world. Even Bakugo is beginning to understand this in his own roundabout way.
Shut up! Save yourselves, you whiners!
These guys don't admire All Might because they're willing to be saved by him. They simply just want to be more like him. And after seeing everyone inspired so genuinely by those they hold in such high regard, I can't find myself giving in to that inherent sense of cynicism, despite constantly wondering what tomorrow will bring. Maybe I'm too simple and optimistic, but any show that can present such a genuine dichotomy needs to be appreciated. Because while the simpler messages might be the easiest to understand, they also tend to be the ones first forgotten. And it's possible that if enough people do the same, there will eventually come a time where we'll have a lot more actions to speak for the good of this crazy world, rather than empty words that highlight the worst of it. All Might has already done his part. Now, it's our turn. Hey guys, sorry for the summer hiatus, we just really needed to take the time to regain our bearings. But we're back now, and hopefully here to stay. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, share it around, and let us know what you think in the comments down below, along with any other shows you'd like us to break down. If you'd like to show even more support, we also have a Patreon set up where you'll gain access to our notes, a private Discord, and other rewards. Special thanks to Regan Carrier for already donating, and my big sis for helping me come up with the idea for this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.